Fate truly loves to play its games. Have you ever tried to run from someone, only to find they're the one you were meant to meet all along? Stay tuned, because this story will leave you speechless. Sometimes, the person you keep trying to avoid is exactly the one fate brings closer to you, the very person you've been destined for all along. Indeed, nothing can stop two hearts that are meant to find each other. But what happens when a desperate plan to escape an arranged marriage leads to an unexpected twist? Keep watching to find out on Dark Voices. Aubrey, who was that guy? Her mother asked sharply, upon seeing the young man leaving their home. Aubrey turned her back to avoid her mother's question, fully aware of what she would say, but her mother was persistent and continued following her. Why are you not answering me? Who was that man? He's my suitor, Mom, she replied, still not looking at her mother, who was hounding her with questions. What suitor? Since when did I ever allow you to have a suitor, huh? It's my decision, Mom. Listen to me, Aubrey, her mother said firmly, grabbing her daughter's hand to make her face her. How many times do I have to tell you? And how many times do you have to tell me that I can't entertain other suitors? But why am I so stubborn? Aubrey cut her mother off, raising her voice for the first time. And since when did you learn to speak to me in that tone, hot daughter? Just now, Mom. Just now. Isn't it always the same story, though? You keep saying I'm not allowed to marry anyone else, I'm not allowed to accept any other suitors, I'm not allowed to do this or that, I'm not allowed to gain weight, not allowed to lose weight, I have to stay sexy and beautiful, blah 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 blah. I have no freedom, Mom. I'm doing this for you, daughter. If you were doing this for me, you'd listen to me. If you were doing this for me, I'd at least get something I want just once, but there's nothing. No suitors, because why? I have to reserve myself for the son of your wonderful friend. Because why? That man wants someone beautiful, fair-skinned, sexy, so that upon our first meeting, he'll immediately like me, fall in love with me, and we can rush this marriage that only you want. It's all for you, Mom, not for me. Daughter, this is all just for they. That's why you're forcing me to marry a man I've never even seen, a man whose beard length I don't even know, or if he has one at all, and most of all, a man I don't love, Mom. You're not doing this for me. You're doing this for the sake of your company, to make it stronger, bigger. And what about me? You're locking me in a life I don't want just so you can achieve your dream. Mom, I'm your daughter, in case you've forgotten. You're my mother, so maybe you don't feel how unhappy I am, she said, finally allowing her tears to flow. Daughter, I'm only doing what I believe will be good for you. No, you're not, Mom. You're not, she repeated, wiping away her tears and storming off. Her mother wanted to follow her and continue the conversation, but her feet remained rooted on the last step of the staircase, watching her child walk away. Oh, my Aubrey, I know this is hard for you, but one day you'll understand, was all her mother could think, sadness filling her eyes. The next morning, Aubrey got up early, stretched, and went downstairs for coffee. She was surprised to see her mother looking as though the entire sky had fallen on her. She thought perhaps her mother was still upset about their argument the day before, so she approached her. Mom, I'm sorry for raising my voice yesterday, she said gently, stroking her mother's hair. It's okay. I understand. But I hope you can also see where I'm coming from. You're all I have, and if I ever leave this world, I want to go peacefully, certain that you'll be fine and that no one would dare mistreat you. That's all I want, my daughter, she replied with a weary sigh. Though Aubrey still believed her mother's methods were wrong, she understood her intentions. I'm sorry, Mom. We're good. A moment later, her mother continued, the family of Jason is coming. We have some important matters to discuss, so I want you to get dressed. Though it weighed heavily on her heart, Aubrey simply nodded. Before long, Jason's parents arrived. Aubrey discreetly scanned the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the young man named Jason, he who was supposed to be her fiancé, but she couldn't find him anywhere. Meanwhile, her mom was busy fussing over the powerful family. So, Margaret, what brings you here? What's this urgent matter we need to discuss? Please, have a seat, her mother offered, but Mrs. Margaret turned her attention to Aubrey. Is she Aubrey? Is this your daughter? Indeed, she's the one. What do you think, Claire? She's so beautiful. She seems sweet, too. Good morning, Aubrey greeted them and then approached them politely to say hello. Yes, Margaret, I raised my daughter well. But, by the way, why are you here earlier than expected? Are we going to talk about that important thing? Has Jason gone home? Claire asked, noticing that Mrs. Margaret no longer smiled. Why? What's going on? Why do you look like that? Claire asked anxiously. Well, something happened. The truth is, Jason has come home. He's already married. Claire was stunned by her friend's revelation, while Aubrey felt a wave of relief. If Jason was already married, she wouldn't have to be forced into marrying him. What? Jason's married? How? Why is Aubrey still here and not in a wedding dress? So, how? It's a long story, Claire. That's why I came here about this matter. My son Jason can no longer marry your daughter Aubrey, but I still want us to be in-laws, so I've decided my son Brandon will marry her instead. Aubrey felt as though her entire world collapsed in disappointment. She thought she was finally free, but these two old friends never ran out of ideas. Brandon? Jason's twin brother? Well, that's no problem at all. Shall we schedule the wedding now? Claire asked, and the two mothers talked at length before finalizing their plans. Upon returning home, Margaret was greeted with a kiss on the cheek by Brandon. So, how did it go, Mom? He asked. The meeting went well, and there's something important we need to discuss, she said, pulling him alone. Mom, you're acting weird. I'm nervous, Brandon commented, noticing her behavior. Son, your brother Jason just got married. You only recently returned to our home, and your former girlfriend is now pregnant with Jason's child. She's his wife now, right? Yes, but why are we talking about this, Mom? Because you're old enough to get married, too. Besides, you know there was supposed to be a woman arranged for Jason, but your brother's situation changed, so I want you to marry that woman instead. No way. I still love my ex-girlfriend, Mom. I'm not ready to marry anyone else, whoever she is. Tell her I'm not willing to be her husband, and you can't force me to do it, he spoke firmly, storming off. Brandon! She called out to him, but he didn't even glance back. Meanwhile, Aubrey paced restlessly in her bedroom, thinking about how to escape her dreadful situation. She desperately wanted to avoid being forced to marry a man she didn't love. What can I do? I'm sure if I pour my heart out to Mom, she won't listen. I hate this. I don't want to be tied to someone I don't love, she murmured to herself. She always says I should remain a virgin until marriage because it's the most precious gift I can give my future husband. So, maybe if I'm no longer a virgin, they won't force me to marry that guy anymore. Yes, that could be the solution. That night, at around 10 p.m., her mother was already asleep, as were the household staff. Taking advantage of the late hour, Aubrey carefully slipped out of her strictly guarded mansion. She successfully made it outside and was thrilled to experience a moment of freedom. She drove straight to a club and sat down in front of the bartender. Ma'am, what's your order? Give me your best wine, she answered. Aubrey didn't know the names of any alcoholic drinks because she'd never tried one before. Her mother had even forbidden her from drinking to protect her dignity and her body. Here's our best wine, ma'am, the bartender said, handing her a glass. Oh, thank you, she replied, about to sip when a man approached. Hi, sexy, he said, admiring her. She glanced briefly at him. Hi, she replied softly, stunned by the sight of a tall, handsome man standing before her. Give me my usual wine, please, he asked the bartender, then turned his attention back to Aubrey. I've never seen you here before. Are you new around here? Actually, yes. I'm just trying to enjoy my night, she said, asking for another glass of wine. Well, can I enjoy it with you? He asked, making her look at him again. Of course, she replied without hesitation, and they started talking. Eventually, Aubrey began to feel tipsy. You're drunk. You should stop drinking, Miss Gorgeous, the man said, pushing her glass away. No, give me my wine, she insisted, but he moved it farther from her. A pretty girl shouldn't drink too much. I'm here to enjoy. Being drunk isn't exactly enjoying. Give me your address, and I'll take you home, he said. Aubrey gazed into his eyes, smiling despite her inebriation. You know, why are you being so nice to me? Why do you care? We just met, she slurred. Every woman deserves a gentleman. It doesn't matter that we only just met. I'm worried because you're clearly in no condition to drive, and there are too many creeps lurking around. It's not safe for a woman to be alone, especially if she's drunk. Let me drive you home. Fine, maybe you're right. Here's my key, she said, handing him her car keys, which he gratefully accepted. Once inside the car, Aubrey rested her head against the seat. So, tell me your address so I can drop you off. No, don't bring me home. Take me somewhere else, she replied. He frowned. Somewhere else? Why? And where exactly? To your house, your room, your condo, Luke. Please, I'm drunk, and my mom's going to freak out over what I've done. I don't want to go home. Hey, why would your mom get mad? How old are you? 25, she answered. 25, and you still can't party? Wow, that's insane. I know, so please take me somewhere else, anywhere but my house. I'm begging you. All right, just for tonight, he said and headed for his condo. When they reached his place, Aubrey was impressed by how clean it was, like it belonged to someone even more meticulous than most women. There wasn't a single piece of clutter. You can stay here in my condo for one night. I'm heading back to my family's house. Make yourself at home. Wait for me tomorrow so I can drive you home, he said, and Aubrey was deeply touched by his kindness. How could such a handsome man treat a woman with this much respect without taking advantage of her while she was drunk? So few men like him remain in the world. You know, she said, you had such an opportunity. I'm drunk. You can do whatever you want with me, but you didn't. That's admirable. I have a lot of respect for women. I didn't even touch my ex-girlfriend intimately during our long relationship, so there's no way I'd do something to a drunk woman. I'm just not that weak, he replied, making her admire him even more. As Aubrey studied him, she noticed a certain sorrow in his eyes, a sadness that couldn't be hidden. She was sure he was miserable in some part of his life. What a naive girl, she thought. How could she let go of a man like this? She was referring to his ex-girlfriend. If this man had loved her instead, she told herself, she'd have gladly married him and been faithful forever. You still love her? She asked, unable to hold back her curiosity. I do. She was my girlfriend for a long time, so yes, I still love her. You know, Aubrey continued, I want to ask you a favor. I know it's sudden and might sound crazy, but I'm still going to ask. What is it? Do you need something to eat? He had no idea what she meant, so he asked gently. Aubrey stood from the bed and placed her palm on his chest. What are you doing? He asked, startled, as she nudged him back against the wall. Are you all right? What's the matter? She locked eyes with him, seeing a spark flare in his gaze, then she pressed her body close. I have no freedom. My mom wants me to marry a man I don't love. Now, I'm begging you to take my virginity so I can be free, she declared, their bodies nearly touching. She could feel his toned physique under his thin shirt, and she'd never encountered someone as close to perfect as he was. The man lifted his arms, clearly indicating he had no intention of taking advantage of her. Offering a room for the night was his good deed, and he wasn't expecting anything in return. Can we have a hot night tonight? Please, she asked seductively, letting one finger trace his lower lip. He carefully took her hand and lowered it. You know why I gave you a place to sleep tonight? Because women act impulsively when they're drunk, he said gently, moving her away from him, then turning his back. Please, I'm begging you, she pleaded, grabbing his arm again. Begging me for what exactly? A steamy night? No, are you crazy? he retorted firmly, shaking his head. Call me crazy, but I'm not just asking for one hot night. I'm begging you for my freedom. As long as I'm a virgin, I don't have any freedom. So please, take me and give me my freedom. Woman, your body is precious. My body has no value if it's going to end up with someone I don't love. What's the difference, anyway? You don't love me either. We don't love each other, but you're the kindest man I've ever met. Losing my virginity to someone like you would at least make it meaningful, even if I don't love you. Giving it to a good man is enough for me. He didn't reply, just stared into her eyes. He could see no regret there. She seemed utterly resolved. He also sensed that she was like a caged bird longing to be free. He clenched his fists to summon his courage. He'd never had a one-night stand before, and this might be his first and most unforgettable encounter. I promise you won't owe me anything after tonight. Are you really sure about this? More sure than anything, she insisted. All right, he said, sitting down on the bed. He pulled her closer so she stood before him. Take off your clothes, he commanded. He instantly saw the fear in her eyes. You're not sure about this, are you? I'm sure. I'm just a little nervous. Then let me help you. He stood and slowly began removing her clothing, piece by piece, until she stopped his hand. Wait. Changed your mind? No, I just want to ask you to turn off the lights. I want to do this with dim lighting, she admitted, still shy even though this was her choice. Sure, if that makes you comfortable, he said, turning off the main lights. Aubrey remained standing in front of the bed. Judging by the faint footsteps, she sensed him approaching. She gasped softly when he embraced her from behind and kissed the back of her neck. His lips moved down to her ear, and she heard him whisper, "It's your first time. Let's make it special for you. Let's make it memorable. Let's pretend we love each other, and you can call me your husband tonight." He brushed her hair aside, exposing her nape, and she shivered when she felt his lips on the back of her ear, moving down her neck to her shoulders. His hands carefully slipped off her garments until she was naked. He stared hungrily at her figure, his hands caressing her curves gently. He pulled her closer. "You're so beautiful," he murmured, and she felt his breath quicken with desire. His lips traveled from her nape down to her neck and shoulders, igniting sensations that made her close her eyes. She felt as if the night was made for just the two of them. His hands began roaming her body, exploring every inch. Her breath caught in her throat when his palms covered her breasts, stroking them gently, as if he cherished her. Their bodies grew hotter and bolder, freeing each other until both of them found satisfaction. That night left an indelible mark, a precious memory. The next morning, Aubrey woke up early. Her partner was still asleep, and she didn't want to disturb him. She left quietly without saying goodbye. She now stood at the gate of her own mansion, about to press the doorbell when it swung open. "Where have you been? I was looking for you all night and trying to call," her mother yelled, scanning her from head to toe. Aubrey saw the anger pulsing through the vein in her mother's neck. She gulped nervously but gathered her courage. "I went clubbing and had a one-night stand, Mom," she stated. Her mother's eyes immediately bulged. "One-night stand? Are you out of your mind? Isn't it clear to you that you're only supposed to give your body to your future husband? To a husband I didn't choose? So what's the point?" Aubrey shot back. "You keep me preserved for a man I don't even want. Now that I'm not a virgin anymore, you don't have any reason to force me to marry him. You're wrong if you think you're off the hook. Think again. You're still going to marry Brandon, whether you like it or not. We've already arranged your wedding with him. You'll meet him next month." "But, Mom." "Shut up," her mother shouted. Aubrey stomped up the stairs to her room. She had thought she'd finally found a way out, but there was no escape. She thought about running away, but her mother watched her so closely, she didn't even have privacy to go to the bathroom alone. Days passed, and her life remained the same, no freedom, like she was in prison. Meanwhile, Brandon sat at his office desk, lost in thought. It had been 2 weeks since he'd had a one-night stand with the woman whose name he didn't even know, but her face and her beauty haunted him constantly. Even when he closed his eyes, he saw her. Woman, why do you keep appearing in my mind? What is it about you that makes it so hard to forget? He wondered. Sir! His secretary called out loudly, finally snapping him back to reality. Oh, sorry. What is it? Sir, I've been trying to get your attention, but you weren't listening. I'm sorry. I just got lost in my thoughts. What's up? Your mother called. She said be ready because she'll be here in a few minutes. My mom's coming? Brandon asked, jumping up from his chair in panic. He wanted to escape before his mother arrived, knowing she'd harass him again about this forced marriage, but it was too late. She appeared in the doorway. Mom, he murmured, forcing a smile and letting out a heavy sigh. Where were you running off to? Come, sit. We need to talk. She sat down in the vacant chair. Mom, I'm busy. No, you're not, she said firmly, and they locked eyes. Brandon knew he wouldn't win, so he slid back into his seat with a sigh. This is about the wedding again, isn't it? Exactly. Everything is set, the church, the venue, everything. Even the bride is ready. Mom, I don't want this. Son, you're 30. I'm worried you'll become too focused on work and forget to give me a grandchild. Look at your brother, Jason. His wife, Anna, is about to give birth next month. Meanwhile, you. At the mention of Anna, Brandon's face fell, revealing that he still felt something for his ex-girlfriend. His mother gently clasped his hand. I know it's hard to forget Anna. She was a wonderful girlfriend, but it's time for you to move on and look ahead, Brandon, she said, exhaling softly. Maybe you're right, Mom. Fine, I want to meet this woman as soon as possible, but I'm not agreeing to marry her yet. Really, son? Really, yes, Mom. Oh, that's amazing. I promise you won't regret this. Your soon-to-be wife is beautiful, sexy, loving, and a perfect match for you, she gushed, then hurried off to tell her friend the good news. After talking to her son, Mrs. Margaret excitedly called Claire. Claire, I have wonderful news. What wonderful news, Margaret? My son is ready to meet your daughter as soon as possible. Really? That's fantastic. So, when are we introducing them? Claire asked eagerly, and they discussed the details, soon reaching an agreement. 1 week later, the day came for Aubrey to meet Brandon. She sat inside her mother's car, which her mother was driving, dreading every second. She wanted to jump out and run away, but she had no choice. Her mother wouldn't let her out of her sight. Aubrey, her mother said, once we arrive at their mansion, I want you to present yourself properly. Behave well and smile. Don't scowl. I don't want Brandon disliking you. Aubrey just heaved a weary sigh, gazing out the window. Before long, they arrived. The place was massive, at least twice the size of their own mansion. She figured the man she would marry must be extremely wealthy, which explained why her mother was so adamant about the match. Aubrey, smile. Her mother commanded, so she forced a smile as Mrs. Margaret came out to greet them, practically dripping in jewelry. Claire, my dear-in-law. Sorry we're a bit late. There was traffic, Claire explained. No worries, dear. Your daughter is so lovely. Come inside, Margaret said, taking Aubrey's hand. You know, you won't regret marrying my son because Brandon is wonderful and incredibly handsome. Just imagine your future kid's beautiful mom, handsome dad. Oh, there he is. She added excitedly, pointing to a man a short distance away with his back turned. Son, Aubrey's here. She called, and he turned around. The moment their eyes met, both froze in place. They recognized each other instantly. Aubrey's blood seemed to drain from her body, chills running through her as though she'd seen a ghost. She couldn't believe this was happening. You're Aubrey? And you're Mrs. Margaret's son? You and Brandon are the same person? She blurted, still in disbelief. Mrs. Margaret noticed their strange reactions and stepped between them. "Wait, have you two met before?" she asked, looking back and forth at them. "I've met her somewhere, Mom, and I want you to finalize everything because I want to marry this woman as soon as possible," he said, which delighted his mother. She dashed off to share the good news with Claire, while Brandon and Aubrey were left alone in the garden. They stood there quietly, as though waiting to see who would speak first. "It's funny, right? Who would have thought the man your mom arranged for you, the one you didn't want to marry, would turn out to be me? And that I was also the guy who had you first? Don't say it!" she begged, mortified at the memory. "Whether you like it or not, I'm going to be your husband. We have no choice. Our mothers are pushing this union. Besides, I was the man who took your virginity. I'll take responsibility for that. But I told you before that you didn't owe me anything." "I know, but I still want to marry you," he said, and they discussed things further until all the arrangements for their upcoming wedding were finally settled. Now, Brandon stood on his balcony with his twin brother, Jason, sharing a bottle of wine. "Is it true the woman you're marrying is the same one you had a one-night stand with?" Jason asked. "Yeah, funny, right?" Brandon replied. "Well, is she pretty? Do you have any feelings for her?" "I don't know, Jason. The only thing I do know is that ever since that night we spent together, I haven't been able to erase her from my mind. That's all I can say." "Then maybe you like her more than you realize," Jason said, smiling. "Well, good luck, Brandon. I'd answer your question if I could, but only you can figure it out." "All I can do is wait until you give my daughter a playmate," Jason joked, and they continued drinking. A few more days passed, and Brandon and Aubrey were officially married. They moved right away into the mansion their parents had given them as a wedding present, ready for their first night together as husband and wife. Aubrey stood in front of the mirror, fresh from the shower. She'd been looking at her own reflection for a while, trying to muster the courage she'd need this evening. It was their wedding night, and Brandon was waiting in bed, but she didn't know how to offer herself to him as his wife. Her heart pounded so loudly that she could hardly think. Finally deciding she'd hesitated long enough, Aubrey opened the door. She felt her knees weaken when she saw Brandon lying on the bed, wearing nothing but, well, very little. She couldn't help but stare. He put down the book he'd been reading and looked at her. "Why are you just standing there? You look pale. Are you okay? Are you sick?" he asked, setting the book aside. Now that she had his attention, she didn't know what to say. She mumbled, gripping the belt of her robe so tightly her knuckles turned white, humiliation flooding her. "What do you want to say, Aubrey? Are you uncomfortable sharing the bed? What's going on in that head of yours? Are you thinking about having a honeymoon with me tonight?" he asked pointedly, causing her face and ears to go red with embarrassment. Brandon smirked. He had a feeling he knew exactly what was running through her mind. He crawled across the bed and moved closer, looking at her playfully. "Let me see your nightie, please," he teased, his voice low. Aubrey flushed even more. She was the wife, the woman, but here she was, seemingly more eager than he was. The heat of his presence overwhelmed her. "Come on, show me what you've got. Let me see how sexy you are, honey," he pressed. She was so anxious she was shaking. They were married, after all, and a wife is supposed to fulfill her husband's desires, right? Summoning what little courage she had, she slowly pulled the robe off her shoulders. As soon as it slipped low enough to reveal part of her neckline, Brandon suddenly stopped her. "Brandon?" she said, confused. "Give me a reason why we should be doing this," he challenged. "Because we're married. Because we're newlyweds, and newlyweds go on honeymoons, and maybe, as a woman, it's my duty to satisfy you." Brandon gave a crooked smile, then gently pulled the robe back over her shoulders. He wrapped it around her and held it firmly in place. "Listen, Aubrey," he said quietly, carefully stroking her cheek and hair. His touch was gentle, his eyes respectful. She realized he had to be the kindest man she'd ever met, and it was impossible not to admire him. A small part of her yearned for him to love her back, but every time she looked into his eyes, she sensed his heart still belonged to someone else. Aubrey, if we're ever intimate again, I want it to be because you love me, not just because we're married and you think it's your responsibility. I want it to be driven by love. Aubrey, I need you to love me. Brandon, when I gave you my body before, I had no regrets. Even now, you're not difficult to love. But I wonder, can you love me? Will you ever be able to love me back? She asked softly. His gaze suddenly turned cold, and she felt him pull his hand away from her skin. Let's just sleep, Aubrey, he said, lying down on the bed. She had no choice but to lie down beside him, turning away so they were back to back, like strangers sharing the same bed. Brandon soon fell asleep, but Aubrey remained wide awake, eventually sitting up to look at him. In the quiet darkness, she studied every contour of his face. Gently, she touched his cheek. Brandon, I want you to love me. I want to replace whoever is in your heart right now. I want to be the one you cherish. You can be so warm in your touch, yet so cold in your heart. I'll do everything I can to make you love me as your wife, as your partner, she vowed to herself, realizing, ironically, that the man she once tried so hard to avoid was now the very man she wished to love her. Over the next week, life in the mansion felt nothing like a true marriage. They hardly spoke, and Brandon didn't treat her as a wife, more like a roommate. Aubrey couldn't help but wonder about his ex, Anna, and why it was so hard for him to move on from her. They sat at the breakfast table, not even looking each other in the eye. Finally, Brandon spoke. Aubrey, I'm going over to my brother Jason's place. Want to come with me? Aubrey was surprised. It was the first time he'd invited her anywhere. He probably just wants me to tag along to see his ex, she guessed silently. He might be using me as a shield. If you don't want to come, that's fine, he said, not waiting for her reply as he got up. I'll come, she answered. After finishing their meal, they dressed and drove off to see Jason and Anna. As they stood outside the house, Aubrey's nerves began to spike. She was about to come face to face with Anna, the ex-girlfriend who still had Brandon's heart. Sir, please come in. They'd been waiting for you at the poolside, said one of Jason's helpers. Brandon led the way, and from a short distance, Aubrey spotted a man who looked exactly like Brandon from behind. Jason. They truly were identical twins, with the same height, body type, and even voice. If you didn't know better, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. She also noticed a woman holding a baby. Anna. She was beautiful as a goddess and still had an amazing figure for someone who'd recently given birth. Aubrey felt small in comparison. Her self-esteem plummeted, and she wanted to turn around and flee, but Brandon grabbed her hand, making her jump in surprise. She turned to look at him, and he gently brushed her cheek. What's going on? Why are you shaking? He asked, noticing even the smallest details of her demeanor. I'm fine. Silly, I know what you're thinking. I saw how you looked at Anna. There's nothing to compare. Relax, he assured her, then leaned in and gave her a gentle kiss on the lips. I'll be busy with Jason, so stay here with Anna, okay? He said, and she nodded, confused by what had just happened. Was that kiss for me, or was it to show Anna he's over her? Am I just a prop? She wondered silently, her mind buzzing with questions. Aubrey, right? Anna spoke up, getting her attention. Oh, yes, Aubrey, she replied. You don't look so good. Are you okay? Anna asked. I really don't look as good as you do, Anna, and I see now why Brandon is so cold to me, because you're impossible to surpass, Aubrey thought. She realized she'd spoken out loud and quickly tried to backtrack. I'm sorry, Anna. Please forget what I just said. You seem to have a serious problem, Aubrey. I feel like there's more you want to say, so go ahead, Anna offered, calm, not offended at all. Aubrey actually admired how gracious she was. She was not only beautiful but carried herself with poise. How can I be more like you, Anna? What do you mean? I want to be like you so that Brandon will love me. We're married, but I don't feel like I have a husband because I know he still loves you, Aubrey said sadly. Anna just smiled. You're overthinking everything, Aubrey. I'm me, Anna. I'm the one Jason loves. Anna belongs with Jason, and she loves Jason. You will never be me. Besides, Brandon just kissed you. Yes, he did, because you were there watching. I'm just a stand-in for you, aren't I? No, you don't understand. Brandon doesn't just kiss anyone. If he kissed you, you must be special. Don't be jealous of me, because I assure you one thing, the way Brandon looks at me now, I know he loves someone else, and it's definitely not me anymore. Brandon and I aren't stuck in the past. As you can see, I have my wonderful husband by my side, and this baby I'm holding is the biggest symbol of our love. The same goes for Brandon now. He has you. You just need to sense it more deeply. If you're really confused, why not ask him directly? Ask him? Of course, ask him. It's important for you to have clarity, Aubrey, or you'll only end up hurting yourself. Before long, their time at Jason and Anna's home was over, yet even as she sat inside the car, Anna's words still echoed in Aubrey's mind. She wanted to question Brandon, but she lacked the courage to do so. Aubrey, you've been staring at me for a while. Do you want to ask me something? Brandon asked, not even looking at her. How did you know I was looking at you when you're not even facing me? Because I can feel it, Aubrey. Were you staring at me and thinking about how lucky you are to have such a handsome husband? He teased, and she forced a smile. Sure, you're handsome, but you don't love me, she muttered under her breath, turning her attention to the window. What did you say? Nothing, she replied, wanting so badly to ask him about his feelings but not ready for what his answer might be. Okay, good, he answered coolly. Aubrey sighed, realizing by his short reply that he really didn't care about how she felt. There was nothing she could do about it. They finally arrived home, and he opened the car door for her. Aubrey, I'm not going inside yet. I have somewhere else to go, and I might be gone a while, so don't wait up for me. Go to bed early and eat dinner without me. I'm not sure what time I'll be home. Fine, was all she said, turning to leave. Aubrey, wait. He called after her. She turned around. Yes? Did you want something else? Nothing. I'm leaving, Aubrey. Okay, take care, her tone was flat. She didn't understand why he kept calling her name as if there was something else he wanted to say. Did you forget something? He asked, and she quickly checked herself. Well, I think I have everything. My bag is right here, and I don't think I brought anything else. Okay, then I'll head inside, she said, but he called her name again. Aubrey. What now? If you have something to say, just say it. I'm about to go in. You forgot to give me something, he stated. She frowned. Huh? And what exactly would that be? She thought for a second about what he might mean. Oh, your eyeglasses. I almost forgot. Hang on, she said, fishing them out of her bag and handing them to him. Here, she offered, but Brandon didn't take them. That's not what I need. If it's not this, then what do you need? I need a little kiss, he said, sounding like a child asking for candy. Aubrey froze, her heart dancing. He was actually asking his wife for a kiss. She tried to hide her smile but couldn't stop a small grin from forming. A kiss? You want a kiss? You heard me right, Aubrey. A husband needs a little kiss from his wife, especially when he's leaving or coming home. Come on, give me your sweetest kiss, he demanded, pulling her by the waist. Kiss me, he repeated. Embarrassed, Aubrey leaned closer to press her lips to his, her heart fluttering so wildly that she could barely complete the gesture. Could you close your eyes first? She asked shyly. Brandon obliged, closing his eyes to wait for the touch of her lips. Impatient and perhaps worried she might not go through with it, he tugged her forward and kissed her himself. Startled, Aubrey found herself enjoying the firm pressure of his lips. That little kiss he requested turned into something deeper, more heated, and she felt his large hands gently cupping both sides of her backside. Tastes good. These are the sweetest lips I've ever tasted in my entire life, Aubrey. I love it, he murmured, biting his own lip as if savoring the sweetness lingering on his mouth. "Go on, get going. Be safe," she said, shooing him away, though inside she wanted to jump for joy. "All right, I'm leaving. You've got a nice butt, too, honey," he teased. He was about to get in his car but stepped back to steal another kiss, as if he were addicted to her lips. "I'm getting hooked on these lips," he teased, kissing her one last time on her forehead before driving off. While on the road, Brandon couldn't help smiling, recalling the pleasant sensation of his wife's kiss. He felt truly happy and excited for the days ahead with this new woman in his life. "I never thought I would love like this again, Aubrey. I never thought that one night stand would turn into a happy love," he mused as he drove toward his destination. Meanwhile, Aubrey was practically dancing with excitement back at the house. Brandon's kiss was so sweet, it felt full of love. But amid her elation, she suddenly felt a wave of gloom and slumped onto the sofa. "Why am I so happy over a simple kiss? I don't even know if he really loves me or if he even can. Maybe he's just being nice to me because we're married and he has no choice. Brandon, what do you really feel? Do you have any feelings for me at all?" she asked into the silence, rubbing her head temples. Night fell. Paige and Aubrey came up with a plan to attract her husband's attention. She wanted him to see her tonight as a beautiful wife, so she chose to her most sexiest nightgown. "This should do. I hope he likes how I look," she told herself in front of the mirror before smiling, satisfied with her smile appearance. She lay on the bed, intentionally deciding not to cover herself with a blanket, so that her husband Brandon would immediately see her exposed legs exposed when he arrived. She also pulled her neckline down a little bit lower than usual, revealing just enough of her bare skin on her back exposed to catch his eye. As time ticked by slowly, she waited anxiously for him to come home, but it felt like she was gathering dust waiting for him to arrive, with still no sign of him coming home. Growing more impatient with every minute that passed, she finally got up and peeked out the window to see if he was there. "Brandon," she whispered softly to herself, spotting his car finally entering through the gate. She hurried back into bed, deliberately hiking up her nightgown a little bit higher than before to show off a bit more skin for maximum effect when he saw her. Moments later after that, she heard the faint click of his footsteps approaching outside, and then the unmistakable sound of the door creaking opening slowly. Brandon walked in, and, as she had hoped sure enough, was greeted immediately by the tantalizing sight of her pale, slender legs glowing softly and her seemingly fast asleep in the dim light. He approached her quietly and gently pulled a soft blanket over her to cover her up, careful not to disturb her. Having covered her bare skin carefully with the blanket, Brandon then quietly took off his clothes and headed for the bathroom, preparing for a quick shower to wash off the day. Aubrey, still very much awake, cracked open one eye open just enough to peek at him, still pretending to be fast asleep to keep up her act. "Seriously? He covered me up? Seriously, doesn't he feel even the least tiny bit tempted by me?" She muttered to herself inwardly, frustrated and wondering why her plan didn't seem to be working, continuing to maintain her fake slumber act, pretending to sleep. Brandon soon finished his shower, dried off his damp hair with a towel, slipped on a clean pair of his favorite boxers, and climbed into bed beside her, moving quietly so as not to wake her. He gently pulled her close in a tender embrace, gently, but she didn't feel any response from him. Opening her one eye just a tiny sliver again to check, she caught a glimpse of him holding Spotted with his favorite book again in his hand, reading quietly. Seriously? Seriously, is that book really more important than me, his wife? She muttered under her breath again to herself, annoyed by his focus on reading instead of her. By bad luck, unfortunately, Brandon happened to turned his head to look at her right exactly at that very moment, catching her peeking. Aubrey's heart skipped a beat as she panicked quickly, snapping her eyes shut tightly just in the nick of time to avoid his gaze, hoping he didn't notice. Brandon shook his head and gave a small, amused smile to himself, chuckling softly under his breath. Aubrey smiled. "I know you're awake. Stop pretending you're in such a deep sleep like that," he chided gently, his voice warm with amusement, clearly not fooled by her act, clearly embarrassed. Embarrassed at being caught, Aubrey sheepishly opened her eyes slowly, her cheeks flushing. How did you know I was awake?" she stammered, curious how he'd caught her. "I knew the second I walked in. You kept moving your feet," he explained with a grin, pointing out the small detail that gave her away, making her grin sheepishly in return. Aubrey, can we have a serious talk for a minute? He asked, setting his book aside carefully on the nightstand, his tone shifting to something more earnest. Sure, I guess we really do need to talk, she agreed, her curiosity piqued by his sudden request for seriousness, intrigued by his serious tone. I'm assuming you already have some questions in your mind, so go ahead and start asking. Brandon said, giving her to letting her take the lead in the conversation. Nervously, Aubrey clutched the hem of her nightgown tightly, her fingers trembling slightly, drawing courage from the soft fabric to steady herself. Why do you kiss me like that, so intensely? Why do you feel like treat me like I'm special to you when we both know deep down you don't love me? You're not so sure about that, are you, Aubrey? It's not so sure, painfully obvious, Brandon. I'm not sure about that. It's so painfully obvious to me, Brandon. One day, you're all of a sudden so sweet and attentive to me, and I get all giddy and excited, thinking maybe, just maybe, there's a chance you could actually love me, too, someday. But then I get so confused about what you really feel for me. Does my heart even have any space room for me in your heart, or is there really none at all? She finally let all her pent-up questions spill out in a rush, her voice trembling with emotion as she poured out her deepest fears and hopes, spilling out in a torrent. Aubrey, what are you even talking about? Brandon began, caught off guard by her outburst. You know exactly what I'm talking about saying, Brandon. Sometimes it feels like you're just forcing yourself to be nice to me just because this is our situation now, our marriage. Here I am, practically throwing myself at you, begging for your attention, but all you seem to can think about is your ex. You're so cold to me, so distant. Yes, your touch can be so warm sometimes, your kisses burn with this intensity that makes me can't help but crave more of, but then the way you look at me sometimes, it's so cold, so empty, completely without love or desire. It's like you don't even seem attracted to me at all. I even tried dressing up like this tonight, she gestured pointedly at herself, at her provocative, revealing nightgown, to show her attempt to get attention, and nothing, you didn't even react. Hey, wait, so you dressed up like that all sexy tonight because you were planning to seduce me? Brandon asked, his voice a mix of both stunned surprise and a hint of amusement at her effort, which only made her frustration flare up further, angrier. Go ahead, laugh. Sure, you laugh at me, Brandon. I know I probably look ridiculous to you, right? Maybe I'm just pathetic pitiful, right? Why are we even dragging out this miserable marriage out if it's so meaningless? We can just separate. She huffed angrily, her voice cracking as she got up off the bed to storm away, overwhelmed by her emotions. But before she could take a step, Brandon swiftly grabbed her wrist and pulled her back with enough force, pulling hard enough that she practically stumbled back onto the mattress beside him. For a brief second, time seemed to stop as their eyes locked intensely, hers wide with shock, and hers locked. She could hear his heartbeat pounding loudly in his chest, so close she could feel it against hers. Let go of me, Brandon. Let go, you're not going anywhere, she demanded, struggling weakly. We're not splitting up ever. What's the point of our marriage, Brandon, if you don't even love me? She cried. I love you, Aubrey. He declared fiercely, his voice raw with emotion, and her eyebrows shot up in stunned disbelief, her breath catching. You love me? That's not true.